Day that we didn't think was going to get here fast enough, and it is Friday. But also, it's December 19th, right? And 3 days ago, the Bureau of Labor Statistics released combined employment data for October, November, after a 43-day government shutdown delayed everything. And what they're showing us is that it isn't very pretty. The US added about 64,000 jobs in November. The unemployment rate climbed to 4.6. It is the highest level since 2021. But here's what most people are missing. This isn't just a slowdown. This is a displacement in real time. And the data tells us a very specific story about who's getting hit and why. And we're going to jump into all of these specific details and metrics so you understand exactly what links to what and where this puts you at for 2026. So listen to the end because I have some strategies for your career that is going to help you and propel you towards 2026. So 77, almost 78,000 tech job losses in the first half of 2025, which directly attributed to AI. Healthcare represented about 47 to, let's say, about 48% of all job growth in 2025. So this is what economists are calling a low hire, low fire, or no hire, no fire market. And so everyone is focused on the wrong numbers. And here are the three that actually tell you what's happening right now. And if you guessed, you probably guessed right. The 22% disruption rate is the focus. So the World Economic Forum Future of Jobs report for 2025, which was released on January 8th, it tells us this: 22% of jobs will be disrupted by 2030. 170 million new roles that created versus 92 million displaced. The net increase of 78 million jobs globally. Did you guess right? So what this actually means is that this isn't about whether jobs disappear. It's about whether your job transforms faster than you can adapt. 22% disruption means that if you're in a team of 10, about 2 to 3 roles of the fundamentally changing form in the next 5 years. So the question isn't, will I lose my job? It really is about, am I building capability for what my job is becoming? What does that transitional job look like? Number two, the 57% automation potential. So the McKinsey Global Institute report from November 2025 has this breakdown. 57% of US work hours could technically be automated by current AI robotics. But technical potential doesn't mean that it equals actual displacement. So 40% of jobs are in highly automatable categories, but only 1% of companies report AI maturity. So let's break down what this actually means. Technical possibility isn't the same as an economic reality. So let me go over that again, because I kind of chewed that up, right? Technical possibility isn't the same as an economic reality. It could happen, potential to happen doesn't mean that it's actually happening. So your company cannot execute what they don't understand. But here's the trap. The 57% creates pressure. Your leadership sees that number and they start making decisions based on potential savings, even when they lack the implementation capability. So this creates this weird middle ground where you're expected to do more with AI tools that you weren't even trained on. So for roles that haven't even been redesigned just yet. Number three, the 13% versus 4% reality gap. So based on the McKinsey report, Workplace, for January 2025, here's the breakdown. C-suite executives estimate only 4% of employees can use Gen AI for about 30% of the daily work. The actual number, 13%. Leadership thinks AI adoption is moving too slow. That's about 47% of US C-suite. So employees are already there without formal support. Here's the breakdown on what this means. Your leadership has no idea how much AI is already being used in your organization. You're shadow deploying tools because you had to. And this gap creates a strategic exposure. So you're building skills and workflows that aren't documented, they aren't measured or protected in your organizational chart. So the current economic conditions, they reveal this. Let's talk about like what's happening right now, not projections, not theory, right? December 2025 labor market reality. The frozen job market context looks like this. And this is based on current data from BLS. Release date is December 16th of 2025, really current data. About 64,000 jobs were added in November. This is well below the historical norms. Unemployment at 4.6% is the highest since 2021. So the average wage growth is about 3.5%. YOY, year over year. So job openings in professional services, it's the lowest since 2013 with a 20% drop year over year drop, right? So here's what tech workers are experiencing. They are experiencing unemployment for 20 to 30-year-olds in tech exposed occupations up to 3% since the start of 2025. And this is based on the Goldman Sachs reports. Big tech reduced new graduate hiring by 25% in 2024 versus 2023. 13% decline in unemployment for workers aged 22 to 25 in AI exposed jobs since late 2022. So we're looking at entry-level jobs for entry-level job seekers, about 40% of that, right, failed to secure interviews in 2024. I don't know if it's necessarily failed to secure interviews because I don't think they had availability. They had access to it. So the displacement pattern that you need to understand, the really critical part is who's actually getting displaced based on the 2025 data. So immediate risk between 2024, 2025, that was customer service representatives, 80% automation rate achieved. Data entry clerks, about 56% reduction in hiring rates in AI adopting companies. Medical transcriptionists, about 48% of those roles displaced in hospital networks. Administrative assistants, 33% decline in firms using AI scheduling over 2021 to 2024. So the accelerating displacement for 2025 to 2027 looks like this. 53% of market research and analyst task that was reduced. 67% of sales representative task. 42% of basic copywriting gigs declined on freelance platforms since 2023. And then entry-level drafting positions in architecture, they had an 18% reduction. So the protection tier, which would be the lower automation risk, it looks like this. Healthcare roles, that would include nurses, therapists, aides, 52% growth projected for nurse practitioners in 2023 to 2033. Installation, maintenance, repair, naturally limited by physical presence requirements, construction and skilled trades, personal services, which would include food prep, projected to add 500K plus positions by 2033. So the career strategy, not the typical advice that you normally hear. Here's what every career coach on LinkedIn will tell you, right? Upskill in AI, be adaptable, embrace the change, but that's not a strategy. And if you've watched any of my other trainings and master classes, you will hear that I give you an exact footprint, a blueprint, details specifically on how you achieve specific results. So there's a platitude, right? Let me give you the actual strategic framework based on December 2025 economic reality. Here's your first strategy. Understand your displacement timeline. Most people are planning on the wrong timeline. So the WEF skills data shows that 63% of employers cite skill gaps as a primary barrier. And then 40% of job skills expected to change by 2030. 77% of new AI jobs require master's degrees. But skills required for existing jobs are changing at about 66% faster than 2024. So, what do you do with all these numbers and with all this information, right? What your job isn't waiting until 2030 to change. It's not changing in the future. The skills required for your current role, they are shifting right now. So you want to stop planning for a future job pivot and start documenting what's changing in your actual work today. What task did you do 12 months ago that you don't do now? What's being offloaded to AI, and what's expanding? So this is your displacement timeline, not some industry prediction, but what's happening in your world that maybe only you see that's happening right now. This is where you get started, right? Your second strategy is you want to build positioning and not just credentials. So the push has been certifications and degrees, but the market doesn't really care about your AI certification if 350,000 other people already have it. You're among the masses, right? The current skill demand data for McKinsey shows this. AI fluency demand was about 7 times growth in 2 years. It's the fastest growing skill. Current concentration, 75% of AI skill demand in computer, mathematical management, and business financial operations. Declining mentions in job listings shows as general research, writing and editing, and even though it's still super essential, you find less of those listings. So rising mentions are process optimization, quality assurance, and teaching AI systems. What do you do with this, right? What do you do with this? So you don't chase the credential that everyone else is getting. You want to build positioning around how you use AI in your specific domain. So if you're in marketing and everyone else is learning prompt engineering, that's table stakes now, right? Your positioning is I reduce campaign deployment by 60% by redesigning our workflow to integrate Claude for creative brief development and iterative testing. That's a capability statement with business impact. It's measurable and it's different. And honestly, if you want to compare it to earlier years in terms of how you document your resume, it isn't that much difference in terms of showing what the change is, what the impact is for the business, what percentage, what improvement did you have, right? So you are learning how to position it a little bit differently with the mention of AI because that's what everyone is using right now. So that's the current skill that makes sense to update on your resume. So strategy 3, you navigate the reality of the low fire market. The 2025 to 2026 job market is described by economists as frozen. Employers aren't hiring aggressively, but they are also not mass firing. So what this means strategically is that internal mobility becomes more valuable than external offers, fewer openings. So the more you know in your position, the more leverage that you can gain. Demonstration of AI-enabled productivity in the current role equals retention leverage. So side projects sound familiar. I used to talk about this all the time. Create your own side projects. Take on new side projects when you can. And visible capability, building matter more, right? Shadow portfolio, think about that. And then making sure that you also show your contributions. So this really is all about relationship capital and how it compounds faster when the market is frozen. This is one of those situations where you do as much as you can in the position that you're in. So no, maybe you don't have a specific job title or a specific task assigned, but if you're able to incorporate that skill set and you can expand on it and also share your knowledge as well, this puts you in a very, very critical space where you are needed more, right? So the way that you would manage this is that if you're employed right now, your priority isn't jumping ship. That was probably about 2 years ago for a better raise, more money, better positioning. Right now, that may not necessarily suit you. So it's really becoming indispensable in motion. You want to document everything that you're doing with AI tools and you want to track time saved. I also want to make sure that I mention this as a cautionary note. You want to make sure that when you are working with AI, that you have the buy-in and that they understand that you're using AI and also in what capacity. You want to make sure that you don't push yourself out by using AI, perhaps when your business or your company is not ready yet. So you want to take this as an opportunity to figure out exactly where your company is using AI and where you can gain that additional leverage. And you continue to track quality improvements. You build a business case for your role's evolution before someone else defines it and decides to change it. Now, I also want to point out that this is not that much different from when you're seeing roles change and you're seeing roles being removed or deleted, and then they added a few new tasks and then created a whole new title. This is very, very much like that. And here's the uncomfortable part. You want to start this now, even if your company hasn't asked you to, because by the time that they ask, the decision about your role's future, they have already been made. And you know what those conversations may look like. They already have made a decision. They have already put things into motion that put you somewhere where you may not necessarily want to be. So you want to be proactive in this situation. Your fourth strategy is that you want to read your organization's AI readiness and not just industry hype. So just remember that 32% of companies expect to reduce the workforce due to AI in the next year, according to a McKinsey report. But only 1% of companies report AI maturity. So the readiness signals they look for like this. Does your leadership talk about AI pilot projects or production workflows? Are they hiring AI specific roles or expecting current staff to just figure it out? Do they have data infrastructure in place or are they still talking about getting data clean? Or are they redesigning processes or just adding AI on top of a broken workflow? So what do you do with this, right? So if your company is in the 99% that lacks AI maturity, but is planning workforce reduction, you're in the danger zone. You're in the danger zone because they are making decisions based on potential savings that they can't realize just yet. This is where you get caught in a really bad middle place where you're laid off because of the cost of AI projections that never materialize or even kept, but expected to achieve impossible productivity with an inadequate tools. You probably have seen situations like that, not related to AI, but it still has the same negative impact. Your move here isn't to wait and see, it's to build external options while you still have a paycheck. So if you're not able to find a position within your company where you're able to help them understand AI or implement AI, you also wanted to be looking at companies that are already implementing AI. They are already forward in this particular position. They're not afraid. So when you approach them, they're like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do with this? They have a good understanding as to where they could apply you. So strategy 5, the shadow skills framework. So based on the 13% versus 4% gap, you're already using AI more than your leadership probably realizes. So here's what you should do. Document your shadow AI usage. What tools, what frequency, what task. Measure business impact, time saved, quality improvements, new capabilities enabled. Then build a capability narrative. I can do X that wasn't possible before because I've learned Y. You're showing that correlation between the two. And then you want to create institutional knowledge, train others, document workflows, become the AI implementation resource. And you also want to position for role designs. So what you were doing before is not what you're doing now. You want to make that transition, and you also want to make sure that you are setting up that framework for that to happen. So when your company finally catches up, you're already the expert and you already know what works. The strategic insight is you're doing AI work without AI in your job description. That's actually an advantage if you document it correctly. So most companies are going to redesign roles in 2025 to 2026. The people can say, here's what I've already proven works, have positioning power. The people waiting for official training, they don't have that. So your 2026 preparation framework. All right, listen in closely, folks. Okay, we are a couple of weeks away from 2026, right? So this isn't about resolutions or motivation. This is your operational framework for the next quarter based on actual market conditions. So if you are unemployed, your Q1 2026 checklist looks like this. Before January 31st of 2026, you want to document your current state. So that's going to be week of December, perhaps 23rd to the 27th. Now, you want to list every task that you perform weekly. This is if you're employed already, right? So mark which task you currently use for AI, even if it's unofficial. Identify which tasks have been eliminated or reduced in the past 12 months, and then calculate time saved. AI tools, be really specific though. ChatGPT for meeting summaries, it saves 3 hours a week. And like I said, that cautionary tale, make sure that that's okay with your administrative staff. And the reason why this matters is because you need a baseline data. When your role gets redefined in 2026, and it will, you want proof of what you've already delivered. So now you don't look like, okay, well, I'm working in a position, but I'm not totally prepared for it. You actually are prepared for it because you've already set up these frameworks that we're talking about. And then you want to run your displacement assessment. Week of December 30th to January 3rd, ask yourself 3 specific questions. Could an AI agent do 50% of my current task without me? Look, folks, let's be honest, okay? Customer service reps, this is you. Junior analyst, this is you. Admin roles, this is you also. You want to ask, has my company mentioned AI efficiency goals for my department? If yes, you're planning headcount impact, right? Am I learning new skills or just doing the same job faster with AI? So faster could equal more value. New capabilities could also equal more value as well. So your action-based is going to be dependent on your answers. Yes to question 1 plus yes to question 2. That means that you start your job search in January timeline. It's about 6 to 9 months. Yes to question 1, no to question 2. You want to build internal positioning, document AI-enabled new capabilities. No to question 1. You want to focus on deepening expertise. You have time, but you don't have time to waste. Make sense? So when you build your 2026 capability statement, and you should have this done by January 15th, you want to write one paragraph that answers, what can I do now that I couldn't do 12 months ago? So I'm going to give you a sample based on a good example and not so good of an example. So not really a good example, would be, I'm proficient in AI tools and adaptable to change. How many times have you actually seen that on the resume, right? What do we do with that? Here's a good example. I redesigned our customer onboarding workflow using Claude to generate personalized communication sequences, reducing our sales cycle from 6 weeks to 3.5 weeks. You hear how specific I am in terms of what changes, what impact that you're making, right? How you're scaling, how you're creating, and you're documenting it. And how many departments or regions did you impact as well? So you see the difference? One is a claim and one is a capability with business impact and institutional value. That's where you want your focus to be. So as you assess your organization's AI reality, you should have this done by about January 31st. You want to look at these signals. You want to look at mature signals. You're probably okay for 2026 if they're hiring AI production managers, ML engineers, data engineers. Workflows are being redesigned and not just AI added on top of that, right? They're actually embedding that into the process. Leadership talks about specific production, AI implementation, and not just pilots. So you have access to AI tools with clear usage guidelines. That's a mature signal that you're probably okay for 2026. And here is some things you want to look out for. Dysfunction signals. You want to prepare for chaos. If they're talking about AI efficiency but haven't hired any AI expertise, your leadership mentions getting data cleaned up but has no timeline. They expect you to achieve AI productivity gains, but they're not training you or giving you the right tools. The workforce reduction discussion starts happening before workflow redesigns. You want to start thinking, okay, looks dysfunctional and chaos is coming, so you want to prepare for that. You either prepare to anchor down or you prepare to position yourself so that it works better for you. So here are some danger signals I want you to focus on and updating your resume. I also want to state that you should always keep an updated resume. This is an area that I have lived in for a really long time, reviewing resumes and interviewing folks and wondering, what does this mean? What can you connect the dots for me? And then also looking at the resume and just not having enough substance to have that understanding as to whether or not this person is a good fit. So I want to kind of highlight a few areas for you. As when you're updating your resume, you want to look at leadership citing, like AI cost savings in communication, hiring freeze, do more with less messaging. This is an area, do more with less messaging, that I see goes really, really far, because the unfortunate part is that there are a lot of businesses and organizations that are in this particular position, right? They're having to do multiple roles, fewer people, and they're trying to be as efficient and as lean as they possibly can. And so AI mentioned in the same breath, that can feel overwhelming, right? So your role in high displacement category plus company shows dysfunction signals. This is a danger sign, folks. No AI implementation clarity, but aggressive efficiency expectations. And I'm not saying that every company needs to adopt to AI, but the fact is that most platforms are already using AI. So it becomes a situation where will be inevitable. You may not necessarily have a choice, but you're going to need to know how to navigate. So you want to make sure that you are updating your resume accordingly. And if you're job seeking, your Q1 2026 target strategy is going to look like this. And I'm going to give you some really good details, okay? So for January 2026 priority, Tier 1 is the highest demand. It's the most realistic opportunity. Healthcare operations and support roles at about 47.5% of job growth is here. Aging population is creating structural demand. And then AI adjacent